People keep hearing about this term biohacking. It sounds high tech and complicated, but what is it really? And what does it mean to biohack your body and become the ultimate human?
Well, basically, what it means is, we're really fascinatingly getting back to the basics, right? I mean, it's funny how the science of anti aging and longevity has come full circle. We're realizing, for example, that you can't diet your way around poor sleep. You can't sleep your way around a bad diet, and you can't exercise your way around either. And when we actually look at the big data, let's say blue zones, for example, there was no continuity between diets in the blue zones. So it wasn't keto, paleo, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, raw food that extended life. What extended life was the absence of processed foods. What extended life was mobility into later in life. What extended life was a sense of community, a sense of purpose. Very often, people's religious orientation, because it gave them a sense of community, gave them a sense of purpose. And so, biohacking is a really the best biohacks are about getting back to the basics. So, when we talk about biohacks like sauna, breath work, grounding, sunlight, red light therapy. All of these things are taking the best of what Mother Nature gave us and bringing them into the home. So, for example, earthing and grounding is a very real thing. The earth has a low Gauss current. We discharge into the earth. And when you discharge into the earth, you repolarize the surface of your cells. And when that happens, your cell can now exchange with its outside environment. It can eliminate waste, it can repair, it can detoxify, it can regenerate. When you do things like expose your skin to sunlight, we've been taught to fear the sun, but when we expose our skin to sunlight for not prolonged periods of time, we produce vitamin D3. We produce all kinds of compounds that are very beneficial for improving our circulation, for reducing inflammation, and for giving us the necessary hormones and vitamins that we need for core function. Vitamin D3, a deficiency in vitamin D3, was the second leading cause of morbidity in COVID. And yet we don't even need to eat or drink or take a supplement. All we need to do is expose our skin to the sun. And so, very often, these biohacks, things like sauna, red light, cold plunge, these are not new things. They're things we're actually bringing back from our ancestry and incorporating them into our lives because we realize they have real physiologic benefits. So, for example, a biohacking tool is usually a tool that creates what we call a hormetic stress. Hormesis is the process in the human body where you apply a stress and the body strengthens in response. So, in other words, if you don't load your bones, they don't strengthen. If you don't tear your muscles, they don't grow. If you don't challenge your immune system, it weakens. So, what are some ways that we can take uh, different supplements or equipment or different activities and put these minor stresses on the body so that we strengthen in response? Cold water is a perfect mechanism of that. We uh, get into cold water, 52 down to 48 degrees, 3 minutes minimum and 6 minutes maximum. That rapid loss of heat is a hormetic stress. Well, what does it do? It skyrockets our dopamine. Our norepinephrine level makes us focused and concentrated. It turns on a thermostat in our body called brown fat, which exchanges calories for a measure of heat. It causes our liver to release cold shock proteins, which scour the body of inflammation, free radical oxidation. And it even helps with a peripheral vasoconstriction to drive blood into our core. So that would be a biohack, cold water, being used to strengthen the body. Sauna does a very similar thing. You release heat shock proteins, you dilate the vasculature, and you eliminate waste. And by waste, I don't mean stool or urine, I mean cellular waste, mold, mycotoxins, heavy metals, parasites, viruses, these things that are plaguing our immune system. So the whole biohacking world is based on the premise of what can I do or expose my body to that will actually cause it to strengthen in response. I have a saying that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort, and nothing is more accurate than that statement.
Yeah, I love that. Unfortunately, and I agree with you. What are the telltale signs that someone who's watching now is agreeing with everything that you said, and what are the signs that their body's actually breaking down?
Well, what we would call consequences of aging are generally not consequences of aging at all. They're consequences of missing raw material in the human body. So let me give you an example. If I was to show you a soil lineage study between 1945 and 2022, in other words, what kind of nutrient density did the soil have back then versus what kind of nutrient density does it have now? It would absolutely frighten you, right? We have gleaned the fields, which the Bible tells us not to do, but we have gleaned the fields. We have overfarmed. We have put too many herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, preservatives, all kinds of toxins into our soil. We've disrupted the microbiome of the soil. And now the animals that eat that soil and the plants that grow in that soil are deficient in the raw materials that our body needs to do its job. If I was to actually show you a really complicated chart of your cellular biology, this vast maze of reactions going on 300 billion times a day inside every single cell of your body. What would be fascinating about that chart is that the layperson, if you zoomed in on that chart, would recognize the name of everything on that chart, meaning they would recognize the name of common vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, nutrients that you are used to hearing about. When you deprive the body of certain raw material, you get the expression of disease.